All right, episode 116. Should real estate brokers be able to mandatory... I'm tired today. Should real estate brokerages be able to make their real estate agents get the COVID vaccine? Yes or no? We'll get started right now.
Oh, shit.
Welcome to the only real estate podcast worth listening to, with your hosts Nick Good, Matt Kelderman, and Brian Force. Combined, they have 26 years of experience and have sold over 1,500 homes. Join them each week as they bring you everything you need to know about real estate. And now, here are your hosts, Nick, Matt, and Brian.
All right, episode 116. Let's do a better intro than the first opening. God,
I got to give you credit, though, man. You crushed the intros now. And
I'm just tired. I'm tired today.
You haven't done that in a while.
It's been a long week. So, hey, today we're talking about something that's going to be a fun topic for us to kick around. Should real estate brokers be able to make their independent contractors? Can they make this a can they make the decision that their independent contractors, aka real estate agents, get the COVID vaccine? So we're going to toss that around, tag some agents, share this out. But before we get started, if this is your first time listening to our show, watching our show, wherever you're consuming this podcast, please go to iTunes first and leave us a 5-star review, as well as go to the only real estate group worth being a part of, request access in there. I know that even Joanna today was asking some questions about what would you drop off in person to an luxury expired listing, right? So some good questions and comments in there about business building tactics and techniques, as well as support our show sponsors. Justin Nelson over at Sphere Rocket VA. If you're wanting to get leverage in your business, right? Maybe you don't want to take on a full-time employee that maybe does half-ass work. Go talk to Justin Nelson, Sphere Rocket VA. He's going to show you how to use virtual assistants at a fraction of the cost to really kick ass in your business, leverage it out, run your operations, do your database, 36-touch campaign, all that good stuff. So talk to him, sphererocketva.com, as well as our favorite mortgage loan officer, Mortgage Mike of Texas.com. So if you're looking for a loan officer here in Texas, go talk with Michael DeBacker. Just go to mortgagemikeoftexas.com.
.com.
So what was the genesis of this? Because we talked about this earlier. You always show up with like printed out news stories, which I think is so old school. Nick's like
he's like my mom, but with MapQuest.
Nick's
like the whole back seat used to be full of fucking MapQuest.
Nick's like an old school private detective that like won't use social media to track people down. He still like carries around a notebook and like is looking for clues and stuff. And he's like, "You kids don't know how we used to do it."
I mean, I like to usually highlight and write on it, but my printer messed up. It double-sided printed, and I don't like that.
Oh, that's irritating. I hate that.
Awful. But I mean, the idea, or basically, we talked about this because on Inman there was an article that was just released that it talked about the headline is daily COVID cases surpass 100,000, right? So that COVID Delta variant plus or whatever it is getting crazy. And so they're saying now real estate brokerages are in this tough position. Should they mandate that their independent contractors get vaccinated?
Interesting.
Yeah. And so, by the way, share this out, tag an agent in it, please, because I mean, this needs to be talked about. Our last show was a good one too.
Okay, well, all right. So let me ask this, just because most agents, and like I think we could just like approach this from so many different angles. Is this like a liability thing? Because most agents don't come to the office very much. So is this like the brokerages is covering? Like, is this a CYA thing? Because like if you go on a showing and get someone sick and you weren't vaccinated, like now you can, like, there's some liability on the broker or something. Like I should say I understand these conversations more, whether like regardless of my feelings on them. I understand the context of the conversation more if it's like an office where a lot of people come to every day, like an accounting firm.
Yeah.
But like most people don't even come to the office in real estate. So is this like a liability thing, or like what are they exactly trying to prevent here? I mean, obviously the spread of coronavirus.
It seems like obviously there's a CYA aspect to it, but I also think like everything in our world today, it's I wouldn't say playing to a certain group of people, but you're making this decision knowing that you're going to alienate a certain amount of people, right? There's just like everybody who's watching this is on Facebook. You've all sat in the comment section and watched people bitch at each other, right? Like there's no doubt that I think there's a part of this decision-making process that just has to go with whoever is making the decision at the top of the franchise, at the top of the business, is looking at this through a little bit of their own personal lens. A little bit. In addition to, I think everybody is trying to cover their ass a little bit. We've seen it. We've all been traveling a bunch lately. This is kind of where my thought will go and where my part of this conversation will jump in is I just think that there's so much, this is one of those spaces where I'll use the wrong words, but there's just so much like just pomp and show around this stuff. I mean, I've had to take many COVID tests to get into places and to get back into the country in the past 6 months.
Sure.
And I will tell you, almost every single one of them has been a borderline joke. Right? Like there is a lot of this stuff that's going on that are people just checking the boxes to say they've done it. Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like this may be a part of that as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was waiting to see those stats you were looking at.
I just want to be informed.
I'm making sure that you could be looking up baseball stats right now. So
Yankees are winning. I don't have any interest in looking up stats right now. I'll check in when they blow the lead.
and here's the thing: you asked like, what's the premise of this? Like, why? And I would say that a lot of companies are feeling that pressure right now of falling in line. Right.
Sure.
You don't want to be the one that is kind of like, nope, I'm not going to take this stance.
Yeah.
Do what you want. Do as you please. And then all of a sudden a huge outbreak, or maybe it goes a little viral and it goes in the opposite direction.
Sure.
And now people don't want to do business with you because you weren't, and so these companies are now straddling that fine line.
Yeah.
Because there's some brokerages, like there's a New York-based real estate brokerage that has implemented a policy that they're going to mandate all all their people that are part of that brokerage to be vaccinated.
Sure.
Right. Redfin, whom they don't have independent contractors. Redfin has employees. Even their real estate agents.
Sure.
If an agent or an employee is going to be coming into the office, they are mandating that employee be vaccinated.
Sure. Well, okay. So this is where we want to clarify the actual direction of this conversation. The title was should they mandate it rather than should they be able to? Because those are obviously two different things, right? Like I have no problem sharing hard opinions on the show. Like if you're asking the question, should brokers be able to mandate whether or not their independent contractors be vaccinated? Like, I am happy to live in a country where I can say, yes, I think that I don't know how their owner setup is. Like, I don't know if you're talking franchisees or whatever, but if it is a privately owned company, you can institute whatever rules you want, whether or not people agree with them. And if they don't agree with them, they can choose to work for a different company. That is one of the amazing things about living in America. We can have the freedom to make decisions, even if most people don't agree with them, right? Should they do it, though? I guess this is this is an interesting topic because you just brought up the idea of branding. Like it's almost like a kid tested, mother approved thing. Like, is this like it's almost a branding thing, like work with our agents because they're all vaccinated? Is
Correct.
It now becoming like, hey, we're trying to put together this united front of like all of our agents take this really seriously and they're all vaccinated? It's like a marketing thing. Like it becomes a question, should they do it? Would it be beneficial for the company is the real question, right? I don't know. That's a tough one to answer, right? Like,
well, and the crazy thing that you think about when you're an independent contractor, the way that the real estate industry that we look at this is we're our own business owner, right? And if a business that we're an independent contractor of is making this a requirement, but your personal beliefs are, I'm not going to do that at that moment. Whatever your belief system is on that. Well, now, even though I liked working for them, now I'm forced to make a decision on, do I stay or do I go?
Yeah.
And at first, when I read this, I'm like, there's no way as an independent contractor that a company could regulate that. Well, no, I was wrong, because you can actually have that. They can, in this article, in this Inman article, they talk about that it could be in that independent contractor agreement that you sign when you partner with a brokerage,
right?
That you are agreeing that if you're going to be a part of this brokerage or affiliated with it using their name, that you are going to be vaccinated, or you have the choice to be vaccinated. If you're going to come into the office, we require that. and to show proof of that.
I almost like the thought process of Brian's angle a little bit around almost does it become a value for some and a detractor for others, right? Like as we sit here and talk about this and know that everybody is going to feel one way or other about this type of subject, nobody's straddling the fence on vaccines, I don't think, or at least they're very quiet if they are.
Yeah.
But the whole point being is like there are going to be, are there, we were talking about this with Jenya before the show, but talking about in the context of frontline medical workers, are there going to be talented people who leave Baylor, Scott, and White because they have decided to mandate that all their frontline workers are going to be vaccinated? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are there also going to be talented frontline workers who do believe in the vaccine who might gravitate towards that, right? Like it's kind of the same type of thought process. If you are going to alienate agents and maybe even therefore clients potentially down the road based on whichever stance you have, there are going to be people who agree with your stance,
Sure,
and fall right into those same slots. So I almost don't see the businesses really, I don't see the long-term repercussions from a business standpoint or a social media standpoint or a PR standpoint from this, because it is so polarizing that there are just going to be people who just switch places, right? You know, I don't have any problem sharing this. I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccination, right? Not because I was worried about myself, and I'll even say candidly, not because I was worried about the people around me. It was required to go on to some vacations I wanted to go on. It was the easiest damn vaccine to get, and I got it. Now,
everybody's got the reasons.
but here's the thing is, if you're an anti-vaccine person and you're like, oh, you're ridiculous. All right, kiss my ass.
Yeah.
I wanted to go out of the country, so
I'm
I got
pulling
it.
my listing.
Yeah, if you're a vaccination person who's like, oh, you only got it so you could travel, that's selfish. Kiss my ass. I got it. I don't care either way about this. I decided to get it for me because it was what was most convenient for my life, right? And I think if people would start looking at this vaccine a little bit more through that lens, as opposed to walking through Walmart and pointing out the people who don't mask on, or asking people that are vaccinated when it's really none of your business, we would probably all have a little bit less concern about what the businesses did around it as well. Or am I just completely naive?
No, I actually think that leads
lane?
us to like, because this would be another part of the like the branding conversation. Like if you're saying like, you know, it's actually a value add that all of our agents are vaccinated, like it hits, I think it hits me weird. I think it hits people like all of us weird, where it's like, I guess I'm just confused about why I should care about that as somebody and like where personal responsibility went. Because I mean, let's look at a couple of objective facts, right? Okay. So, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, because I don't like to just talk out of my ass and I don't do all the research. I have a job. Vaccines are pretty widely available.
Yes.
You don't even need an appointment right now in a lot of places. Like
That's what they say.
Yeah,
I got mine very easy.
There's not a shortage of vaccinations. Well, I can also tell you, just these are the stats I was looking up, of total hospitalizations since the beginning of the pandemic, right? That wouldn't even be since we've had a vaccine. The national average by state, like if you added up all the states and just got the average, less than 1% of hospitalizations are breakthrough cases. Meaning if you are vaccinated and you have a breakthrough case, there's a 99.9 or 99% chance or greater that you're going to have mild symptoms. And so I guess, and this is where I just get confused, like, oh, he's saying that you're leaning into my camera. Yeah, your damn pointy hair. is like, I'm just trying to understand, like, I get it from a national perspective, like we don't want to overload the healthcare system. And I have my opinions on the majority of Americans getting vaccinated. I for my own reasons, I believe that should be the case. Like, but if I was working with a real estate agent and I was vaccinated, like I kind of already know the lay of the land, like I should be pretty much good to go. So why would it be a big marketing thing to say that all of our agents are vaccinated? If you are afraid of getting something, just you need to go get vaccinated. You could do it today.
Look, it's a hot button topic though. Yeah. Like here in Texas, if you were to say, you know, at the Good Home Team or the Her Group that we are mandating, if you're going to continue to be a part of this team and this organization, you have 2 weeks to go get the vaccinate your first shot or the J&J, whatever.
So what would we do in that case for long-term combating of the coronavirus? Because it seems like this is okay. So this is where I have an issue. No, I don't have an issue. It's where I have thoughts. I don't have issues with anything. Like, there's an objective reality that, one, this is not an actual vaccine, it's a treatment, right? Vaccines, like the polio vaccine, when you get it, you don't ever get polio, right? So like vaccine, like by definition,
Yes.
when you have a breakthrough case, it's no longer a vaccine, it's a treatment. And that's actually an important distinction to make, because we will continue to do this year after year after year. It's the same thing that we do with the flu. We have to come up with a new flu shot every single year because there are variants of the flu virus every single year. We act
wanna hear
like,
that.
you know. So anyway, I say that only to say we've gotten comfortable with that. And again, coronavirus is deadlier, more transmissible, much more dangerous than the flu. I'm just saying, I was using an example of we have to come up with a new shot every year. So this isn't a legitimate vaccine. And so where I get a little sideways about this stuff is like, we're the decisions we make right now and whatever we create as our new normal, like we're going to be doing this for decades if we don't figure something out. And what I mean by that is you can go ahead and get vaccinated, but are we just going to do this again next year whenever, like, as a new variants come out, and variants are random, right? So variants, I was talking with Kellerman off the air, right? Variants are essentially whenever a virus comes into a whole cell and then replicates itself, which is when it spreads, right? It makes a genetic copy of itself, and it doesn't always come out right. It's like the movie Multiplicity with Michael Keaton. Like that one came out weird. That would be a variant. They're random, right? The variants are not created to evade obstacles. They're random genetic copies that create themselves into, which means they will, by proxy, evade vaccines over time. That's what the flu does every year. That's why we have to come out with a different shot, because there's a different strain every year, right? Like, would it be appropriate for me to say that we like to mandate as a broker that I need to take all of the other precautions in my life to protect myself and boost my immune system so that when I do get the vaccine every year, eventually we can live in a society where we just don't worry about COVID anymore? Like, is it appropriate for me to say that everybody needs to lose 30 pounds in my brokerage because we're all fat as fuck and like that's a comorbidity? And I don't mean to be mean, but this is an objective fact, right?
Yeah.
78% of hospitalizations since the beginning of the pandemic have been people that have been morbidly obese, right? The other 21.9 out of the available 22% have a different pre-existing condition. And I'm not saying that to shit on people that are whatever, but I'm just, if you're going to say that people should have to do this one thing, I'm not even saying that that's inappropriate. I'm just saying they're going to have to continue to do that one thing. So I think every year for eternity.
I think that becomes the slippery slope, right? So when they start to go this direction, because here's the other thing, right? And this is now out here where once it starts to enter the conversation, then it's, all right, does it go into play or not? Which is one of the attorneys that was talking about this says, you know what? Instead of the brokerage mandating this, what would be better and a better approach is the state to mandate anyone who is licensed by the state to be vaccinated. That would include real estate professionals, hairstylists, nail people, medical professional, and the list goes on, right? And so then, all right, let's look at that, because that tells me, let's say that, look, I am not an anti-vaxxer. Let me make that statement
Jenny
clear.
McCarthy.
Right? I am not an anti-vaxxer. Just like Kelderman, I got the J&J shot, right? But with that, if I'm making my living in my profession in real estate and I am choosing not to put that into my body, and then all of a sudden my license is going to be revoked or go away or not renewed, that is now an attack on my career and my way of making a living for my family.
And that's where my hard stop with the mandate thing comes in. If individual businesses decide to do this, it still gives me an opportunity in the playing field of, let's just talk about DFW, right? There's a million other brokerages I can go to, and my business will keep chugging along, right? Now, if the state of Texas, which we all know would never happen, starts mandating vaccines, right? Now, all of a sudden, I've got to come up with a decision, which for me would be horrifying decision to have to make, right? Like, do I go find another job, which I am pretty much probably ill-equipped for almost everything else, or do I move to a state that is, more amenable to whatever I need to do, and then restart my whole real estate career all over again, right? Like that, I will say I am hardcore as hell no against the state getting involved as far as mandating stuff for state licensed people, because that it puts you in a position, like you said, where people cannot provide for their families. And now we're talking about a totally different set of problems.
Without putting forth some sort of alternative, right? Why can't there be an alternative, right? Think about this. Just to say, right? Like this is what we do. This is where things get so political and so silent. We stop thinking clearly. Like, I'm saying this just because I'm, again, comparing it to other coronaviruses like this. We're going to be doing this every single year. Are they going to mandate the new coronavirus vaccine every single year for eternity? Like, when does this stop? Or do we get an alternative, right? Like, I will just tell you right now, if you're vaccinated and you adhere to like the normal garbage bullshit standard American diet that most people do, like, I'm going to call you a hypocrite in your straight up virtue signaling if you're mad at other people out there that live healthy lives that don't want to get vaccinated. And again, I will say this, and I have no problem sharing my opinions on the show. I believe the majority of Americans should be vaccinated. I think that we need to reach an 80% vaccination rate. And I also think that's because
60% of Americans are overweight.
Fucking almost everybody. We spend our life, guys. What are the two leading causes of death in this country? It is cancer and heart disease, and they are both literally foodborne illnesses that we do to ourselves over the course of our lives. And so maybe I would be okay with some sort of mandate if there was also an alternative. And yes, I know there's a little bit of self-righteousness in my voice, but I hate to shatter the illusion that we've built up on this podcast over the last 3 years. But this White Claw thing, this is a bit that I do for the show. I don't actually drink these things in real life. It's a character that we came up with years ago. This is the only time I put something like this in my body, and I do this once a week. The rest of the time, maybe it's a glass of red wine every other day with my wife. You know the fucking sacrifices I have had to make. Matt gets a front row seat to it every single day. I walk into the room.
I tried to get my leftover sushi rolls today. He wouldn't take him.
Don't
got
eat
up and
that
ate a goddamn can of tuna.
I take care of my body better than 999 out of 1,000 people, and I get shit for it every single day. I walked in there with a fucking bell pepper today that I was eating for lunch, and 6 people were like, "You just eat those raw?" Like, I hear this stuff all day, every day, but it's good for me. And I have enough respect for myself that I put good things in my body. And I'm not saying that that's better than being vaccinated. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying that if I did have a moral opposition to something like that, maybe you could create an alternative, because if someone thinks that just putting a shot in their arm once a year is going to make up for the fact they treat their body like shit the other 99% of the time, we will be in this pandemic for the rest of our lives, mark my words. So this is not an exit strategy. Everybody getting vaccinated is not an exit strategy if you're not going to actually change your lifestyle. Sorry to bring down the mood. I just don't want it, because we will just have the same argument next year about the next vaccine.
But here's the thing, and I agree with you, everything you're saying. I agree 100%. The problem that I see with this is one, we've been, since Arnold and everyone else putting in what was the health thing and Arnold was doing back in school day?
Oh, it was the food thing, right?
Yeah, wasn't it?
I can't remember what it's called.
Right, they've been doing that for how long, and then we're still having this issue.
And
right?
but that's because it's this cultural thing where we think it's mean to say. We have this weird cultural thing where it's okay to talk about mental health, but it's not okay to talk about physical health. Like, it's okay to talk to someone and say, "Hey, it looks like you're really struggling. Can I help you? Like, it looks like you're going through some stuff. Can I help you?" And it's mean to go, "Hey, you're fucking 100 pounds overweight and you're going to die in your 50s. Can I help you?" And that's shaming someone. It's weird.
It's funny because I didn't think about this argument until in this sense until you kind of brought it up earlier, and the idea behind mandating. My mind immediately goes to, look, you want to be a fat ass? Yeah, you're taxing the healthcare system. I got to pay more for insurance, but I've already got that worked in my budget. Whatever, yeah. Right? It's not affecting anybody.
It's in your budget,
right? Yeah, I mean, my health insurance worked into my budget, so it is what it is, right?
That, yeah,
I've already got that part figured out. The argument that I could always see, and that where my mind initially went, was the ability to spread it to someone else, right?
Yes.
Which is why I think the vaccine part. We've got people that are close to us who the vaccine is incredibly important in their life to making their families work,
Absolutely.
right? So we're really, really sensitive to it and really understanding of it. And like I said, I'm vaccinated, so whatever. Yes. But at the end of the day, I think it was a really interesting conversation to have with you, because I thought. And immediately of my responsibility to other people, I never think about my responsibility to myself. That's a personal bugaboo that I just always work on, that I have many coaches and therapists for, right? But like, I think as a whole, we are really quick to say, hey, what affects me shouldn't affect you, which I think is where some of the people who have decided not to get vaccinated, where they get the vaccinated people get twisted off, right? Because that is the argument. Hey, look, it's my body, my choice, and you are 100% right.
Sure.
Right? 100%. Yeah. And then the conversation becomes on the other side, well, I don't have the option of not interacting with you not spreading it to some place I might be, all of those types of things. And that's where everybody obviously gets super fired up and pissed off.
Well, it's just like Derek. So Derek just said, I think mandating comes into play when this remains a prevalent problem for years to come, when we could have avoided X number of deaths, breakouts, shutdowns, simply because people won't do the minimums.
Yeah.
Right. And
I think it's hard to quantify those things, but I think he has a great point. Look, I don't want my little rant right there to make you think that I'm anti-vaccine. Like I said before, I'll say it again a lot. I do believe the majority of Americans absolutely need to be vaccinated. Like, if you're not, you probably need to go out there right now and get vaccinated. And what I'm saying is, when it comes to mandating vaccines as some sort of solution to this, it's not a solution. These things will continue to live on.
But it's not,
and we'll have to do this every single year for the rest of our lives if we don't also put in place some sort of incentive for people to be fucking healthy.
Well, it's not a solution, and what it does is, when you do start putting this,
we've proven it's not a solution. Breakthrough cases are fucking here.
But the breakthrough, but like you said, the breakthrough cases that ends up happening, because it's not a vaccine,
it doesn't stop transmission.
Correct, but what it does is lowers the hospitalization rates of it, which is why they're doing this in the first place.
And that will happen until next winter, when another variant comes out that evades the vaccine entirely. This is not new virulent strategy.
But when you start
been doing this for 100 years.
When you start mandating one thing, and you make that then the bar, what else becomes mandated, right?
Yeah.
And especially if it goes to a state level, that it then can prevent you from earning a living within that career. Let's say you were doing it for 15, 16 years. Let's say that, we all have built some great businesses here. And then all of a sudden, let's say that all of us here were strongly opposed to the vaccination.
Sure.
Strongly opposed to
Sure.
it, right? And then the state of Texas said, hey, in order for you to continue getting your real estate license and operating and earning a living that you've built and put your blood, sweat, and tears in, you're going to have to get vaccinated.
I think the data shows that that's ridiculous, and I wholeheartedly disagree with that.
Doesn't matter.
Oh, shit.
Yep, it doesn't matter. Because
I thought you were asking my opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, because the state, you think you can go to the state and be like, well, the data.
Well, I mean, it goes back to the original point I was making, right? Like, vaccines right now are widely available, and you have a less than 1% chance of serious symptoms if you are vaccinated. So mandating a vaccine doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Again, it comes down to the personal responsibility thing. If you're going back to the Matt's point where you're doing it for everyone, well, but now we have vaccines where you could just do it for yourself. And the point I'm making is, you will need to probably do it for yourself every year forever until you become a healthier person or whatever. But like, why should it be mandated when I could go out right now and go off Campbell Road, and within 20 minutes I would be vaccinated, and then I am pretty much good from at least serious symptoms?
Yes.
Then why are we mandating? Why would you need to mandate anything? We have enough supplies. The logistical chains are there. It's readily available, and it is effective in keeping people out of the hospital. So what's the need for mandation? It should be encouraged, because most of America is unhealthy.
Yes,
but it can't be mandated. It doesn't make any sense. And that power overreach is, people have this perverse thing with power, man.
Thus the reason why I said it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
If this were to be enacted, that is the slippery slope, because once it's there, it doesn't go the opposite direction typically.
Yes. The HOA dues don't come back down.
They're like, you know what, guys, we actually put a bunch of money away this year.
Yeah, it's like, we're going to lower this for you, right?
Yeah.
I just
well, you're vaccinated, so we lower it.
Yeah, but you're vaccinated. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's such a slippery slope, and I don't have any, because I'm two ways on this. I also think if you're vaccinated, you wear a mask, stop fucking hassling everybody, right? Like you're armored up.
How many layers of protection do you need?
Yeah, you're armored up.
Could I be wearing any more clothes?
And I will just tell you this. I will just tell you this.
Like wearing a condom and being celibate.
I know, right? Like, exactly. if you are the person who is assuming people out there are just throwing this all. I will tell you, I have traveled out of the country twice and to different states 4 times in the past 6 months. And I will tell you, there are very few people in public who give a shit about this at all. And I will say this is even in places where people would typically think they're not, right? First off, Texans, all the Californians moving here are not liberals. Most of them are conservatives. So stop with that shit. Secondly, places
California, my Texas.
Places like New York and Vermont, I will tell you, I see just as many people not wearing masks and not standing on the little dots in lines. I will tell you in the Bahamas and in Mexico, people are standing right on top of each other, not wearing their masks, right? Like, guys,
Mexico
this is not
the most surreal experience.
Yeah, they just don't. And even in order to get back into the country from Mexico, we had to do the real deep nose make you gag thing, right? But I'll tell you, to get back in from where I just came back from, it was the most horseshit experience ever. The hotel swabbed. I went deeper in my nose to get into the Yankees game because I thought that's what I was supposed to do, right? Like they just like it's. This is not just a vaccine and mask situation. Across the board, there is a lot of show for this.
It's theater.
It is a lot of theater, and it's happening at a lot of levels. And I think people need to understand that, like, you know, I'm not going to be the media's all playing everybody, but the media's fucking playing you, right? Like they are making everybody think. You know, you go on and you see some lady walking through Walmart, and it's real funny that she's calling people out for not wearing masks, right? But at the end of the day,
it's good TV. I watch it.
I watch it too. I jump in the comment sections and talk shit like everybody else does.
If World Star was still around, they'd be straight all grocery store COVID fights right now, and I would watch every one of them.
But I just think at the end of the day, like I hate that I keep saying at the end of the day, I've got to stop that. I do the same thing much. And I hear myself say it every time, and I'm like,
at the end of the day, and mine is at the end of the day, and one to wear.
I've never even heard that one.
That's because I've broken it, because my team would be like, they would count it during team meetings.
You owe everybody $1 every time.
I just think, what's Michael asking?
This I like. I wanted to get to this, right?
Yeah.
You talk about theater. How far are you willing to take your theater? If you would require all of your agents to be vaccinated, would you also require them to only work with vaccinated clients?
Well, that's
the spread.
This is a whole other irritating thing.
Or to buy a house.
What? You're gonna be sitting at the closing table with those people.
But here's the thing: is I can't remember who it was. It was in another group. It was Jeff Johnston.
Thank you for that comment. That's a very interesting point, and it came from YouTube. Thanks for watching on YouTube.
Oh, nice! I didn't know that. Jeff Johnston from he's here local, but he was in Lab Coat Agents, and he posted a post about somebody seller. He was representing the buyer. The seller was only allowing vaccinated buyers and buyers agents to show their home.
That seems like a HIPAA thing. Is it not?
No, it's not, because
really?
No, because you're like you can't. I don't think you can force them to disclose anything.
So the seller was only allowing showings for vaccinated people?
Yes. That was their requirement.
But the requirement is that they.
But it's their house, right? Because we're not talking about a business and a separate entity. I think that's where the HIPAA thing gets fucked up.
I don't know enough about
because then just do private property rights. Now, look, I think the seller's an idiot.
But is that? Again, I guess
I think seller's an idiot because you're limiting your buyer pool and costing yourself money,
and that's not discrimination.
I don't know how far those laws reach.
But it's an interesting. The comment section was really interesting, right? Because what nobody brought up was this potential HIPAA thing. What everybody started everybody, my body, my choice. And I was like, well, what about my house, my rules, motherfucker? Like at the end of the day, if I own the house,
there's a lot of concrete ideas in these arguments.
It is, but the Facebook comment section is always a place to go to get concrete advice.
Yeah, you don't get a ton of nuance.
But
it's a great question on that.
I think the whole point being that is that which one of those trumps what, right? Yeah. Again, I think it's dumb for the seller to do it. Would I take that listing? Sure. Because my percentage is still going to be on the back end of that check. If you want to cost yourself 20, 30 grand in a potential multiple offer situation, then fine.
It is really interesting how a lot of the things that we feel like are like kind of set in stone or colliding now. Like that's a perfect representation of it. Like the my body, my choice versus the my house, my rules things. Like you can only choose one side.
But here's the thing is the person who says my body, my choice, and this is where I will get sideways with the my body. You are right.
Sure.
And I bet if it was your house and you decided you didn't want somebody walking in for whatever reason,
you could also say
you'd stand there with your damn shotgun and your American flag on the front porch telling them to stay out of your house too. Yeah. But now all of a sudden it's my body, my choice when you can't get into the house that you want to get into. And this is look, at the end of the day, this is the hypocrisy of all of this at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do some old ass saying, what's good for the goose is the gander or whatever the hell
Something
it is.
about that.
But my whole point is everybody wants to do what they want to do, but they don't want to extend that same courtesy to the other person.
Sure.
Right. And that's where this whole thing starts to fall apart and the argument starts.
And Derek makes a good point, right? So Derek's talking about the mandation of vaccines to go to public school, which I had to get when I was a kid and things like that. And I absolutely think all children should be vaccinated against those diseases. Like if you're like, you understand that dude that wrote that paper went to jail, right? Like the Jenny McCarthy paper. Like that shit was all a lie. I think the only difference to put in this particular concept was these were emergency approved FDA vaccines. Those were vaccines that were developed over decades and decades of research and stuff. So I think I'm not saying from my own opinion. I just think as far as like the general opinion of the general public, as far as like those vaccines, they don't really have, people don't have as much problem getting vaccinated to go to public school because they know there's been a lot of years of research and trial and error behind those vaccines. I is what I'm assuming.
I want to jump on
to
this.
Kind of add to that. Context.
I want to jump on this YouTube comment from F. Googler. First off, here's the thing: is yes, you're right. My house, my rules. I only want to sell to a specific. Look, man, I'm gonna tell you right now that's a really easy one, man or woman. Sorry, that's a really easy one to jump to try and prove a point. Also, this is not the same thing. When we're talking about somebody choosing to not let somebody in their house because of the vaccination due to their race,
health by being a certain race.
And the race thing is a protected class already due to fair housing, like that's.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a lot of other things just besides race on there.
That
what I'm saying
like
is, and if the whole thing's a scam, definitely not going down that rabbit hole either, right? People are dying because of this. It's whatever is happening is happening. That part of it's fine.
Well, those are two different conversations. This being a scam doesn't really play into the race thing.
My point being with the my house, my rules thing, the point being with my house, my rules thing is the same people who believe in eminent domain and extreme property rights are the exact same person saying that I should still be able to walk into somebody else's house regardless of whether or not I believe in the vaccine. And that is fundamentally bullshit.
Yeah, that is a weird paradox. That's more of a, certain side of the aisle way of thinking, but don't those two ideas collide?
100%. They smash dead into each other, right? But I will tell you, I will say my ability as a homeowner to dictate who walks in my house trumps anything else, right? If we believe in property ownership and the right to own a house, and that is your safe haven, the government can't come take it from you. You can protect it from bankruptcy, all these other things. But somehow I'm required to play along with what aren't even actual rules yet. They're just societal desires, if we're being honest.
How far does that law extend? Did you say I can't walk into a government building unless I show you that I'm vaccinated, or is that now public?
I mean,
there's so much nuance.
Again, it's a state mandated thing.
I just think we need to burn it all down and start over with these laws. They're too confusing.
Well, I mean, look, if you signed a listing right now and your seller mandated that, what would you do?
He said he'd take the listing.
I take listing all day long.
Yeah, but
I would probably charge the seller an extra percent.
50% of the country's vaccinated. You're only cutting your buyer pool in half by.
But again, you're then setting yourself.
It'd be more of a beat as a real estate agent than anything.
Here's the deal: it's not his fault the seller has those rules, so I'd still take the listing.
I'm a businessman.
Now you're getting paid. Now you're policing.
I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman.
Businessman.
Now you're policing that, and then all of a sudden. Then they're like trying to discover if some's fake, some's not.
Sure.
And then what if they go under contract with someone who turned out to was lying?
I think the CYA part on your own. Like, look, I will tell you, if you really wanted to button this up, you'd have to figure out some way to have a lawyer draw up a document that the seller signed that you will be held harmless. There has to be some kind of hold harmless situation. And look, I'm comfortable enough having the conversation with people who are going to get twisted off about it, right? Like if a buyer's agent was all pissed off at me and you can't do that, I'd be like, look, man, this is what the seller wants. They want their house. Does your buyer want to get in there or not? I don't know. Like, I'm not saying go get a vaccination to see this house because it's probably be gone by the weekend anyways. I'm just saying you're probably not going to get an opportunity at this
I am shocked that we haven't seen more of that though. Like just the requirement, because how many times we did take listings last year that there was a requirement to wear the mask.
That's what I was going to say, but that is just
there was a requirement to wear a mask in the house.
Our mind stays in forget. We had tons of these listings.
Yeah,
you had to
booties.
You had to have booties, a mask, the booties things.
How many times did you have a seller call you up that was like, "Hey, I wasn't watching on camera. They didn't wear a mask," and they're like, "Well, they're already gone." I don't
know what you want to do.
That's the same thing as like the agent didn't lock the door or somebody sat on my couch.
No, you're right. I'm just saying
it's also very different because of how COVID has been perceived.
Sure.
Like locking the door, did someone come in? Well, no. Okay. All right. Or they sat on my couch. Well, is it messed up? Well, no. But COVID now is all over the place in their mind, especially last year.
Right.
And let's say they're elderly. Let's say that hypothetically last year, you had that mask mandate. No one wore a mask going in there.
Yeah.
It's an elderly seller. And then somehow they contracted the virus, the COVID, within five days of that. Right. And then you're like, holy shit, where does the law?
That's a whole other conversation, because I'd love to see somebody try and prove contact tracing in a court of law to sue somebody's ass. I just don't think
I don't even know it's about suing. It is a funny thing that we haven't seen more sellers say you need to be vaccinated than we did. We had a lot of sellers saying you need to wear a mask.
It's because people love this for other people. They don't love it when it affects their money.
Well, and also people get bored. We've been doing this for 18 months now. And I think it's just sort of worn off on people, right? Like,
for sure.
It's just, at some point we have to get back to some semblance of normalcy. And if you can go out and get vaccinated, maybe that's why it is. Maybe all the sellers themselves are getting vaccinated, so they don't care.
What if you do, for every listing you sign, you'll bring the vaccination to them?
Just that's part of your value prop?
Yeah.
Hey, I include free vaccinations with every signed listing agreement. We used to give away bikes to kids.
Open houses.
Yeah, open houses.
We have the jab and open house. Open house jab.
That'd be pretty good. Open house.
I mean,
you could have like a crawfish boy. It'd be like jabs and crabs.
Jabs and crabs.
That could be like.
Oh, that sounds like a totally different thing. I still love it. Oh, Jenya said she was going to stop talking about this when she left before the show. So
Jenya says this will be interestingly aligned with the lawsuit from about 2 years ago, when sellers were not allowed to record showings on their home security systems if it had sound. So we're in slippery, uncharted slopes.
This in the comment below it. I am just not this fear person. Like, the comment below is like, so it's not a free thing. This is a mandated thing. It's just here's the thing.
I mean, I actually agree. F Google or whatever with that comment, right? The government is coercing people into mandates and things like that. I mean, I get it. Like, look, if you don't,
I just haven't seen anybody marched off to a vaccination.
No.
Read the comment though for people listening on iTunes and Spotify.
You don't do that in 2021. You don't.
F Googler says the issue here is the government is there. You go. The government is coercing and mandating business, public and private, to enforce vaccinated rules. This is the problem. So this is not a free thing. This is a mandated thing.
You don't march people off to vaccination centers in 2021. You use influence to make them think things to take their own action. Here's the deal. They influenced me. They said, "Hey, if you want to travel outside of the country, you have to do it." And I'm like, "Hey, I want to go travel." I know, and all I'm saying is, I'm not conspiracy guy, but
Bill Gates is in my veins right now.
Here's the problem with being accused. Like, I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm pointing out that there is a fine line between being accused of being conspiracy guy and having a healthy suspicion of a government who has a hundreds of years long track record of super shady shit.
Yeah.
So
maybe
we should all
I agree
things a little bit, have a healthy skepticism.
And here's the thing: is this is probably going to go over like a shit sandwich.
You should read the book "The Devil's Chessboard."
I am fine with the government keeping stuff from me. You know why? I got real problems.
It's not about
real thing.
It's not about the government keeping stuff from me. It's about them actually doing underhanded things.
I get it.
Read "The Devil's Chessboard" is all about Allen Dulles, who the Dulles Airport is named after, allegedly. It has a little bit into this assassination of JFK, other types of stuff, man. You go back to some of this CIA stuff for a long time ago, them fucking dosing people with PCP in Laurel Valley or Laurel Canyon in LA in the 80s. Like, there's a lot of fun stuff because I wasn't involved in it, so it's fun to read the stories.
Harvey says, if you want to register your car, you need to have your vaccine. That's where we're headed.
Oh, that's not a bad.
Okay, but
anyway,
we can say.
And again, and I don't want to sound like I just say a healthy skepticism is warranted, right? Like, we should all have a healthy. That's called an intellect.
I agree.
A healthy skepticism is intellect at its best.
That's the reason why, like, again, we want to bring this up and talk about this and
like unmitigated skepticism is where you go banana sandwich, right? Like, and there are people out there, right, that live with tinfoil hats and that type of stuff. But when you get just never asking questions,
but like you said, we're tired of this, right? Sure. And when you get tired, this is when you're like, you know what? Just let it. If they want to mandate it. If they want to do this. And that's when, because it's the worn down effect, from that, where, like Harvey mentioned, hey, you want to register your car? It's a privilege to drive a car.
I mean, that's actually exactly, you have living proof of this. If they wear you down enough, I even said this before the show, if you make it difficult enough for me to live my life, I will probably acquiesce. And I don't like that about myself, but I got other things to do. And isn't that also a dangerous precedent to set?
And I'll take it back.
soon.
I'll take it all the way back to the beginning of this. I just also don't think there's anything nefarious going on with this damn vaccine. I don't look. It is your right to choose. It is your right to not take it. I also will say, I think the majority of people are doing bits around this to do a bit.
You're probably right, but I don't think
it is your right to choose.
But here's the deal. I'll make a very simple example, right? Like, you understand that low-fat diets are bad for you.
Sure.
They're actually horrible for you.
Sure.
Right? You eat a grain-heavy diet full of wheat and things like that. It gives you constant insulin spikes and puts you in a fucking carb cycle. That's why we're so fat in America too, right? I don't think there's anything nefarious about fucking Kellogg's, right? And I understand that there is unheard of amounts of under the table dealings between brands like that and the United States government that push these types of advertising because dude, am I in the fucking back rooms? I have no idea. But the amount of money and influence that changes hands to send a certain message out there, you understand this comes at us every single day. We happen to be talking about the vaccine right now. It's also, I don't really blame America for being so unhealthy. It is a long-standing conspiracy in America to make us unhealthy. And I don't mean that because they want us to be unhealthy. It just so happens that the cheapest, most profitable food to make is unhealthy as fuck. And so a lot of people got really rich making really cheap processed food, started a whole bunch of lobbyist groups, and now the government pushes messages on us that actually make us unhealthy. We literally commit suicide every day slowly with the food that we put in our body, and the government agrees with it, and not only agrees with it, pushes it on us with things like the fucking food pyramid. Look at that thing. It's all bad. There's candy on there somewhere, I think. I know that's not good, right? And so I agree with you. I don't think there's anything nefarious about it.
They said it's gluten-free candy, though.
I don't think that it is so in your face either, right? Like, there's whatever the
no marketing's in your
conspiracy
face.
Or whatever it is regarding vaccines, if there was one, it wouldn't be something you could just draw the line from A to B. There would be an influence. It would be a message. It would be something way back beyond, outside of our conceptual ether, right? And that's, but it also happens right in front of our faces every single day, and we just kind of accept it. And when it comes to like what a lot of people are talking about, the acceptance thing, the register your car to get, to get vaccinated to register your car and things like that. I mean, I hate the idea that I actually could probably see that being part of our future. I don't like it. And again, I just don't. Not anti-vax guy.
And again, it's crazy. Maybe I'm just an idiot, but I feel like that is just such the amount of things that happen before that, before you have to register your car.
I agree.
Like,
and I don't think that it happens tomorrow.
I mean, in 2 days it's going to happen, but
I'll also flip over. I think we're going to have a complete change in administration in a couple of years, and we'll be right back to just fighting about bullshit and going, you know what I mean? Like, that's a totally separate conversation.
Yeah.
But this is just what we do. We ramp up to something for 8 years, and then the next administration tears it down. And
aren't we doing it already though right now with the coercion? Because we just do it. We just do it culturally. Sometimes we do it to ourselves, and maybe this is just because of the media influence. Like, if I was to say right now, which this is not my belief, but if I was to say that my belief is that no one should get vaccinated, wouldn't I be ostracized in a lot of ways?
No, because there's plenty of people who would agree with you. Look, I'll call her name out right here. Jenna Ryan's nut job ass.
What if plenty of
people follow her after she stormed the Capitol? She got you know what I mean? Like,
what if I went on CNN and said, I think that the vaccine
you got to pick the right platform.
Yeah.
But why? They're the most powerful media company in North America.
Sure.
So if I said on the most powerful media company in North America's platform that I didn't think that anyone should get vaccinated, how do you think that they would treat me? Fairly?
No.
Okay.
But
I say that to say, right, I'm not saying that this is again, I'm not even saying that I think that. What I am saying is that influence is around us. It's a part of our daily lives all the time, right? And if I went on right now and I didn't even mention the vaccine, but I said that I think that the best way to fight coronavirus is to eat a nothing but an organic whole food diet, I'd probably also get just shamed in the exact same way. We shame people for their thoughts and opinions, and then that becomes like a little bit of a slippery slope every day. It's like it's this little fucking mountain that we chip away at every single day until all of a sudden the mountain isn't too hard to climb. And then once we climb it, all of a sudden we have this new normal. And this new normal doesn't seem so bad because we weren't at the bottom of the mountain yesterday. We were chipping away at it day after day after day after. And I only say that because we do have some privilege in America of never having gone through this.
We have a lot of privilege in America.
Yes.
The fact that there are people in other countries who are begging for viruses, and we're talking about how we have them expiring on the corners.
I agree. And there are people that
they're not begging for virus. They're begging for virus.
They're begging for the vaccine.
There are people that live in highly developed countries that remember things like concentration camps, and that was only 2 people ago. There are grandparents that are still alive that survived that shit. And do you think do you really think that shit happened overnight? Do you think it was like one day? And again, I know, as we get down this rabbit hole, I know that I sound like super conspiracy guy. I think that I've demonstrated I'm pretty level-headed during this conversation, but I'm just saying, like, your point is that there's so many things that would need to happen. I'm saying history itself proves that time and again, those things do tend to happen over time. We've had a lot of bad shit happen in this world. And a lot of it's happened in the developed nations where that stuff kind of seemed impossible, you know?
I don't know. I look at it the other way. All that stuff happened, and we're still pretty fucking all right.
Well, here in America, it hasn't happened here yet.
Well, I get it. No, I'm not saying the concentration camp thing. I'm saying
sure history most people of the history has been, and faith in Germany,
not be downplaying the Holocaust.
About it.
My point being is, humanity over and over again.
Fucking fine.
Humanity over and over again has tried to tear itself down, has tried to destroy itself, has tried to kill itself sooner, and we live longer.
Our species is very resilient.
Here's where I agree with you 100%. The personal responsibility of thinking that I got a needle stuck in my arm, now I got the vaccine, I don't need to worry about myself from a health perspective anymore. That is a bit of a cop-out, right? Like, it is very hard to get up every day and choose to exercise. Sure. It's hard to get up every day and choose to eat right. Yeah. It's hard to get up and again, I understand there's people out there who can't make these choices for themselves all the time. There are kids. There are people with
you can't make blanket statements about this stuff. Yeah.
It is way easier to go out and say, hey, you don't have the vaccine, therefore you're a part of this group that I don't want to be a part of, than it is to say, hey, I appreciate that you got the vaccine, and that's not going to help you if you're not making other wise choices. And that's the conversation people don't want to have. And just the whole reason we're doing this topic and the reason it's getting all this engagement is because everybody does feel some kind of fucking way about it. And I appreciate that.
I think that's the good and the bad of it. I think it's great that we're able to have conversations like this. Like, this has been a very civil conversation. I think a lot of us the 3 of us see eye to eye on some things. We disagree on some things, and we're friends, and we could have a fun, spirited conversation on it. And a lot of people don't do that. Like, if there's one real, like, secondary, you want to call it, virus in this country, it's fucking teams, dude. Like, learn to have a conversation with people and not get so revved up about this. Like, especially if you're not going to be objective, right? Like, I'll tell you again, like, if you're the type of person that thinks that this shot that you just got is just your fucking get out of jail free card forever and not treating your body properly, like, your virtue signaling is beneath me. But we divide, we create these lines, we divide. Like, it's fun to have opinions and disagree with people and still love them at the end of the day, isn't it? Right? Like, can't we all get through this together?
It's supposed to be.
We tear each other apart around these things. Yeah. It drives me
nuts.
What
we don't tear apart, though, is our sponsors.
No, never.
Right.
Awesome segue. I made up for the intro.
Justin Nelson, Sphere Rocket VA. Look, you want any leverage in your business and you want to do it at a fraction of the cost. Go over to sphererocketva.com, connect with Justin, schedule a call, see what you can do. $3 to $4 on average for a full-time virtual assistant there that will help you with the marketing, that will help you get your database together, that will help you get your 36-touch campaign going. So, and then our good friend Michael DeBacker, MortgageMikeOfTexas.com. He is a Texas loan officer who will make you look like a rock star to your clients. His communication's on point. I'm going to stress that right now. Communication is big. Dealing with that right now. Communication on point. So MortgageMikeOfTexas.com.
Hey, Jesse, I got to go buy some masks. Get us out of here. Faster.
Hey, thank you for watching. We truly appreciate it. Checking out another episode of the Only Real Estate Podcast worth listening to. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead, hit that share button, hit that like button, and hit the subscribe button. Right? We're dropping more stuff on YouTube constantly. If you're on iTunes, leave us a review, please. We're really, really focused on building up those reviews so we can get more searchable content on there. And if you're on Facebook like everyone else is, go over and search the only real estate group worth being a part of. You're going to want to go join that group. I'm telling you right now, there's so much gold in there. So go join, share us on YouTube, and leave us that iTunes review. Please go do it right now. We'll see you on the next show.